everybody, and welcome to the Derek Ruby Show. I am your host of Previously Mentioned Mr. Ruby, and this is my review of Vampyr the game and why you should buy. So Vampyr the game has a very old world European style. It's made by Donut Entertainment, and it should because it's set in early 20th century London during the Spanish flu. You are Dr. Jonathan Reed, and you have just been turned into a vampire, and you have to balance the hunger of being a vampire with being a doctor and helping people. So this game has some amazing graphics. The world of London comes alive as you walk through the streets of Vampyr. Some of the images and things you see on the walls, as well as the houses and the people you will visit, will amaze you and blow your mind. I spent countless hours talking to many people and going many places throughout the game. It is very much an open world, but in a self-contained kind of way. It seems much bigger in the beginning, but as you unlock gates and doors, you can travel through these areas much quicker. Now, as a vampire, you will have a plethora of skills to choose from, so much so that you will have to play the game several times just to see them all. Combat in the early game can be pretty easy unless you find yourself walking to the wrong area, in which case the game will punish you. You will die over and over again. However, you can use your dodge move to zip by enemies, which you will have to do some of the missions. As you get up in level, it will get easier, but if you let districts fall, more on that later, there will be more enemies at your level or above, and they will punish you at the higher levels. The combat never feels clunky. Combat was thought of secondarily in this game, but they took a lot of time and detail to make it work smoothly. It's very much at times a beat-em-up button masher, and it reminds me a lot of Skyrim or Diablo 3. And that's not a bad thing. If this game was combat first and RPG second, I'd be a little more critical about it, but I actually think it's fine for the type of game it is. Now when it comes to the RPG elements of the game, there are over 60 NPCs to talk to, and you can tell that Donut put a lot of time and effort into each and every one of these characters. It feels like a giant team of writers were sitting around to make sure that each character came off very individualistic. You can talk to 3 different doctors or 3 different nurses, and they will all have their own distinct personalities and their own story. So if nothing else, Vampyr is rich with the lore that it sets in front of you, and you will get to know these characters very well, and you will actually feel connections with some of them. Oftentimes when you're engaged with conversations, unless you're in a cutscene, you can pretty much turn the camera any way you want to and observe everything around you, or look at it from your perspective or the other character's perspective. It is a very nice touch that they added to the game. In many ways, I would compare this game to BioWare games like the early Mass Effects or possibly Dragon Age, in the sense that when you do certain story parts of the game, at least as far as the main story goes, you will have to make very serious choices that are going to impact your game. So from that standpoint, it's amazing. However, it does not seem like every time you talk to somebody or say certain things, it seems to make that person act different towards you unless it is part of the story. And that is kind of odd. However, you will do a lot of side quests for the characters, and they don't feel tedious. They actually feel like they're part of the story itself, which goes back to the district and the leveling system that I was talking about earlier. Each district has its own characters, and as you get to talk to and know these characters, you will open up side missions for them. And the more you know a character, the richer their blood becomes. You also have a crafting system where you can upgrade your weapons and make potions, and so you will be checking on the health of the overall population, and the healthier they are, the more richer their blood is, which also makes them worth more XP for you to feed on. Also, the healthier they are, the better your district will do. One of your primary goals, at least early on, is to keep districts healthy. If you feed on too many people and people get sick, your district could fall and it will be inhabited by brutal enemies, and you will lose all the side quests and missions that you could have got there. Now what you could do is you could wait till you do every single mission in a certain district and make sure everybody's healthy and get everything done. Then you can go to town and have a feast and go ahead and feed on everybody, in which you will level up really fast. It's very obvious from the people that made this game that they encouraged a pacifist playthrough so you can get a special ending. And the game does have several endings, which is a good thing. However, it is a vampire game, and why play a vampire game if you're not going to feed on people? The thing about it is, you want people as healthy as possible, because when you feed on them, you get a lot of XP. I might be repeating myself just a little bit here, but I can't emphasize that enough. You feed, you level. And when they die, you hear the last thoughts that they think right before the end. Which in some cases, if you've gotten to know somebody really well and you like a character, can be very daunting at times. In other cases, people will make you mad and you'll just want to feed on them right away just to get rid of them. If you choose not to feed on anybody, you can get XP from doing missions and things of that nature, but it's going to take a lot longer for you to get up there and utilize your vampire powers. And honestly, it's much more fun to feed on people. I spent countless hours playing this game because it was so rich and full of story. But at a certain point, the main story was so interesting I had to move along. As a matter of fact, there was a giant cutscene halfway through the game and I thought that the game might be over. But to my surprise it wasn't, and I was only halfway done. That's when the game really sucked me in. No pun intended. Also, just on a side note, there is some DLC for $3.99 where you get an outfit and a weapon, and I would recommend it because A, it's nice to have something to change into, and B, it's a very good starter weapon. You will get better weapons and you can always upgrade weapons, but in the early game it is hard to find anything good. Now let me talk about some of the negatives of the game. When it comes to side quests, sometimes there will be markers and you will just not be sure where the mission actually is. You may have to go around an entire section of the map just to find where the marker is, even though it's telling you it's in the front of an area. I started a quest early on and I probably walked by an area about 200 times before way later on in the game I accidentally found the right spot. There was even a small bug where I asked the character if they needed my help on accident and I couldn't load the quest back up, and no matter what it wouldn't give it to me, so I just had to move on. Also, when you're running around the game, you will hear this a lot. I can't go through there.
It's locked. I cannot enter. I cannot enter.
I do find it ridiculous, unless I'm in the sewers or something, that I'm a vampire and I can't figure out a way to go around that gate. I'm a fucking vampire. And that can be very annoying sometimes. Also, the major flaw in the game is, like I said, when it comes to the districts and feeding on people. This game boasts that you have to make morality choices and that your district will be affected. But in my experience, no matter what you do, if you choose to feed on somebody, your district will be impacted in a negative way. And that just doesn't make sense. If I kill somebody who's a criminal that's a scumbag, the only person that should be affected is maybe their wife or kid, but everybody else in the district that they were terrorizing should be better, and the district should reflect that. So I do feel that that's a fatal flaw in this game. I don't find the missions to be tedious, even though there is a lot of them, but I will say this, if you're not a big RPG fan, you are going to do a lot of talking. And I mean a lot of talking if you want to get the most that you can out of it. But you still have the option to just skip by a lot of that stuff and go ahead and do the main story. Whether or not you'll be able to beat the game, that's the question. Now, the music in Vampyr is amazing.
Beware, child of the night, for I shall come back and have my vengeance.
However, if you're a very depressed type of person and you don't like dreary music, you may not enjoy it. Overall, what do I think of Vampyr and why you should buy it? Honestly, if you like vampires and you like RPGs, this is the game for you. It's the little things and the details that make this game great. Even when I had to pick up a rat and feed on it just to make my blood meter go up, it really reminded me of Interview with Vampyr. This game is so well written, the story is so good, and it's full of rich content, and the characters are really fleshed out, and overall it's a tremendous experience. For the money they're asking for this game, you will spend countless hours playing, and you're going to enjoy every minute of it. Also, having multiple endings that actually mean something and different skill sets to try really adds to the replayability of this game, and a lot of games cannot say that. And honestly, what more can you ask for? Vampyr is a very unique experience that most new RPGs will not give you. Even if you like playing simple games like Telltale, but they don't quite give you the bite that you're really looking for when it comes to an RPG, this will completely blow your mind. And if you miss those old BioWare days, this is right up there with Knights of the Old Republic or the Mass Effect series. But in my opinion, just a little bit better. So between the richness, the good graphics, simple combat, a hell of a story, and the true RPG elements that make this game stand out, I'd have to give Vampyr 4 stars. So thank you guys for listening to The Derek Ruby Show. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And as always, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.
Good. Now leave this place and enjoy the cool night air. It's quite invigorating. I'm sure you'll feel better if you do.
Or... Or, sorry, I didn't find your friend. I rescued you.
Newton, don't be sorry. We'll meet again soon, and we will be serene and beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a dick.